Welcome everyone to our next session, which is that really a job in travel and tourism? I'm joined today by three very different experienced people that all have job roles within the industry, but they may not be what you would expect. So I'm just going to ask our delegates and our colleagues to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Farina. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your business, please?
Yeah, so hello everyone, my name's Farina. I'm a partner at a law firm called Kemp and I lead their travel practice. So I'm a lawyer and I focus primarily on the travel industry. All my clients are travel companies of one kind or the other, and I obviously give them legal advice.
Thank you. And Michael, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Michael. I'm the Director of Global Merchandising at Hotels.com, which is part of the Expedia group. And merchandising can mean lots of different things in different businesses, but it doesn't mean that I just make t-shirts that say Hotels.com. What my team actually does is all of the promotions and things like that that you see on the site, that you see through social and through emails. That's what my team put together from an end-to-end process.
Okay, great. And Teresa?
Hi, yes, my name's Teresa Arnone. I'm a Health, Safety and Environment Manager for Deloitte. I'm in their sustainability team and work within risk advisory. And Deloitte offer professional services, and that ranges all the way from risk advisory, tax, financial advisory, over to consulting, audit and assurance. I'm the travel lead within the Health, Safety and Environment team.
Thank you. And so, Teresa, would you like to tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today, so your kind of career to date?
Yeah, sure. I started off wanting to be a hotelier and studied hotel tourism management. That evolved later on to later study sustainable tourism as well. And I trained in Cyprus and in London, actually, and then went on to work overseas in tour operations before I then returned to work in the tour operators head office. And worked in product brochure production before I then found my passion over in health and safety. So I spent a good few years flying and sort of spending 2 weeks out of a month overseas, and ski resorts, beach destinations, investigating incidents and accidents and food poisoning outbreaks before I then returned and went into education and some lecturing across industry, looking at sort of aviation business, and then latterly returned to one of the big corporate tour operators, and that's where I returned to health and safety in the travel industry and ended up working on a project from the travel industry side with Deloitte, and now that's where I'm placed with Deloitte.
Wow, lots of different experiences there. Michael, do you want to talk us through your kind of career journey to date?
Sure. So I actually started working for free in Thomas Cook Travel Agent on a Saturday way back in the 90s. If you can imagine a world where there wasn't internet, where people couldn't access information and book holidays, there used to be an hour-long queue on a Saturday to see a travel agent. So I was the brochure boy to try and help get that queue a little bit shorter. And then after that, I studied tourism management at university. I did a placement year at the Civil Aviation Authority, which was in the ATOL section. So that's the licensing of the industry. So very interesting to just see the breadth of how many tour companies are out there and just that you've never necessarily heard of. Yeah, so that was really interesting as part of my placement. And then after that, I've always worked in the travel industry. So I worked at a tour operator, so Olympic Holidays, working on the flight program, typically for a summer season, was what we were preparing for. And then I moved to what was then a startup called Apodo. So that was my first time working within online tourism. And I worked in the hotels contracting team at that point. And after that, in 2005, I moved to Expedia. So at the time, Expedia was pretty small. There were only 60 people in the London office, of which I was one of them. There's now over 2,600. So a lot of growth. I've had various different roles within that time, working from account management and supplier management of tours, attractions, hoteliers, different types of properties. And then for the past 2 years, then working within the merchandising function, specifically for the Hotels.com brand. So always within tourism, but lots of different roles within that.
Yeah. Thank you. And Farina, do you want to tell us how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So I've been working in the travel industry for over 10 years now, and I started with, so I actually started as a trainee. So with law, you have to have a training contract, which is 2 years. And so I started as a trainee with a small firm up in Leeds that specialises solely in travel. So that was my starting point. You know, the sector focus was travel. All the clients were in the travel industry. And I qualified there after 2 years, and then I stayed on. And my work practice was commercial and regulatory. And so that's what I qualified into. And continued there. When I was about 4 years PQE, I became a partner there. So that was just a week before my 30th birthday. So I did that for another 3 years. And then it was coming up to about 10 years, and I just thought I really just wanted a change of scene, and also I wanted to relocate to London. So I moved over to Kemp, which is where I'm at now, and sort of Kemp is a technology specialist, and I just thought that was a really good fit for the travel industry because there's such a tech focus for pretty much every travel company, and I thought that would work really well. And they were looking for somebody to lead it and really sort of build a travel practice for them. So it was quite an exciting challenge. So I thought I would move over and do that. So my career has predominantly been in travel, but obviously as a lawyer, with a focus very much on commercial and regulatory law and giving regulatory advice. And so that's what I still do now, but and still for travel companies. But the overall firm has more of an IT technology focus as well. So building that into my experience now too.
Very interesting. And did you kind of set out to get into travel, or did you sort of fall into it and you specialised in it? How did that happen?
No, I very much fell into it. So anybody that does law at uni will tell you that getting a training contract after you've done a law degree is really, really difficult. So there's a lot of law graduates compared to how many training contracts there are out there. So I was very much just in the market for a training contract. And I remember thinking actually when I joined, oh, I'll do my 2-year training contract and then I'll move on and, you know, I'll go and do something else. Because I was actually concerned, it's quite funny now, I was concerned about being pigeonholed and just having one specialism. And I thought that might make it quite difficult for me going forward. But when I started working in travel, I absolutely loved it. And I was very lucky in that I got to do some really interesting work quite early on with some really, really interesting travel companies. And I think that's what's kept me in the area is I get to work with some really, really amazing travel companies that are really innovative. And it's just really, really interesting work. And so I can confidently sit here now and say I wouldn't move out of travel now because I really, really enjoy working for the industry. And I think, especially when you're a lawyer, I think you're quite lucky to have a role where you actually enjoy the work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And Teresa, did you plan to get into the industry from the beginning? Because I know health and safety is very important for the travel industry. Is that kind of why you got into it?
I have to confess that at the age of 14, I did used to study the Atlas, and my passion was to always be in the travel industry and to travel the world. And the travel industry has allowed me to do that. So yeah, I'm one of those lucky people that knew from a young age what I wanted to work in. So yeah.
Yeah. And Michael, I know that you studied travel and tourism at university, as you mentioned. Now, I had some time out of the industry and worked in fashion for a number of years, and so I've seen kind of visual merchandising through the fashion styling kind of angle. So I'm interested to know, actually, in travel, what is merchandising? Like, how do you merchandise hotels, properties, and so on?
So it covers a couple of different sides. So when we think of the merchandising team, so my function, I kind of think of it in the middle, and on either side we have two different relationships that we need to manage. So on one side we have all the hotels and properties, or whether it's products or if it's airlines, whichever tour product you're actually selling, you then need to work with them to really understand what is it that we actually need to help you with as an online travel agent. So is it that you need, as a hotel, do you need filling on a weekend, or is it actually that you get a lot of weekend travel, and then you need to increase your business travelers. So really understanding that. And then on the other side, we have the customers. So what is it that a customer wants? We know that customers want deals. So sometimes it can always be, it can be about a discount, and how do we kind of put that together as a merchandising team, so fulfilling both sides of that platform. But I think what's important to remember for tourism in particular, and especially times like today, it's not necessarily always just talking about a discount and a promotion. It's how do you put the right products in front of the right customer at the right time. So for example, in today's world, it would be highly inappropriate for my team and brand to say, we've got 50% sale on travel to America. It just wouldn't be appropriate for UK customers. So how do you then tailor that to help your suppliers, and then put a message in front of the customer that says, hey, we know you've been locked down for quite a few weeks, but here are some UK destinations that once we're able to travel to, maybe you will be able to. And so merchandising can cross a lot of different activities, whether it is promotional based and seasonal, things like Black Friday, which are incredibly important in the promotional calendar, to then having this kind of inspirational and engaging content to just retain your brand presence and just always help people dream about their next destination. I think that's also a function of merchandising as well. It's not just about a price-led message.
Yeah, okay. And Teresa, I understand from kind of health and safety, things like balconies and swimming pools and that kind of thing. What does your job look like on a day-to-day basis? What are you normally up to?
Yeah, so on a day-to-day basis, it could range from talking to a tour operator about their sort of processes that they've got in place at the moment, their challenges. It could be a technology-related solution that they're looking for, that Farina drew on there, and innovations. It could be that they're after advisory work about, their health and safety strategy and aligning that across their business with multiple different parts. Or it also could be focusing on their data points and their analytics and bringing that together, helping them make those data-driven decisions around risk and safety. And that's very much where a lot of these travel companies now are wanting to go, and to be really driven by that and really proactive and anticipating. And the current situation has sort of exacerbated that and just drawn that really out with focus with COVID-19.
Yeah, okay. And Farina, I assume that, my perception is kind of going to court every day, and that's what lawyers do. So what is it like in the travel industry?
Yeah, unfortunately, my job is nothing like what you see on Suits. We always laugh because we don't dress like that. We don't accost people and have depositions and any of that. So I don't. If you do litigation, and there is that is a field in travel as well. There's a fair amount of litigation work that goes on. You get to go to court. But I will warn you now, it still isn't like what you see on the TV. Generally, you can't sneak up with evidence that no one's seen before on the day. It just doesn't happen. So there is that litigation, that dispute side of it. That is really interesting work. It's not what I do though. I do the commercial and the regulatory. So my day generally, I get a lot of emails asking for advice. So I get a lot of we've had to cancel all our holidays. What are our legal obligations to customers? Or we've got this issue crop up. What should we do? So I get a lot of emails and calls asking for advice and giving legal advice. I do a lot of that, and I also do a lot of contract drafting. So customer terms and conditions, supplier agreements, agency agreements, so all the commercial contract side of it. I do that. And I also advise a lot on the regulatory side of being a travel company. So I advise new companies, sort of startups, and there's a fair few startups in travel, and they're always sort of saying, look, we want to start up in travel. What do we need to do? What are our legal obligations? What licenses do we need? So I give a lot of that advice. And I give that to existing, travel companies as well, because as you grow, as you develop, as you go down different routes, your legal requirements and your legal needs change, and so you're actually constantly advising companies on things. So yeah, a lot of calls, a lot of emails, and a lot of contract drafting basically sums up my job.
Yeah, oh, still sounds exciting anyway, even if it burst our bubble. And you mentioned earlier as well about relocating from Leeds to London, and I think that's something that in travel lots of people go through that at different times in their life. I just wondered, do you have any advice to people that are maybe thinking about a dream role that's in a different city, and any kind of advice or tips you might have? Should they keep their mind open, or should they really focus on where they live?
I would say absolutely keep your mind open, because your dream job could be anywhere in the UK, and you've got to be open to that. And you know, I was in my 30s when I relocated to London, which is quite late because most people tend to do it in their 20s. And so I did feel quite apprehensive about sort of being a little bit older and relocating to a big city. I was quite lucky that I've actually already had friends here, and I've got a bit of a support network here, so I already had people that I could speak to. But even then, nothing compared to what I had up north. But it's still absolutely worth it, and I would tell everybody to relocate if you have to, because it really opens your mind. You get a completely different experience, and you will make friends here, because you know the people that you work with ultimately will become friends. And my firm, well, pre-COVID-19, we were quite good on the socials, and so we'd have a lot of social things going on that would help me get to know people a bit better. And actually, that's one of the great things about working in travel. There's so much social activity in travel, and I do have friends in the travel industry as well that I see totally outside of work, and we'll have a catch up, and we'll go for a drink and have a chat. And you know, getting to go to travel industry events and just spend it with them, it really doesn't feel like work half the time. So I think that's one of the great things about travel, is how social it is.
Yeah. And Michael, I know that your team are very international, and I've been fortunate to meet a number of them at the Future You events in the past. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about kind of the international part of your job role? How much traveling do you do? Is it exciting? Is it tedious?
No, it's definitely not tedious. It's good. I really enjoy that. I am lucky enough to be able to travel as part of my role. So my team is a global team. So they are split between 4 locations. So some of them are in London, which is where I am. Some are in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Some are in Dallas in the US, and some are in Hong Kong. And so just carrying on from that theme of being a very friendly and inclusive industry, I think that's still true when you even look at global teams. So we don't see each other all the time. We see a lot of each other on video, but then we do get to meet up a couple of times a year. And you do truly make friends with people in other countries as well. And I think what I would also say is just really be open to opportunities that might come up in different locations as well. So some of my team have, crossed between different offices in different countries. So some of them have undertaken a role at one of our other offices in San Francisco for a few years. Some of them have moved to London before moving back to Hong Kong. So always be open to those ideas, and never be afraid to just talk to people who've done that before, and reach out and just kind of say, do you think this is the right move for me? And just thinking that if you do take something on, it's not always, it doesn't have to be a permanent solution. It's not that, oh, I'm going to be moving to San Francisco forever. There will always be other options that you can do if you do want to relocate back to wherever it is you've moved from. So my team has definitely enjoyed that, and being part of an international organization, I definitely always look at the opportunities in different locations as well, because you never know what's going to come up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Teresa, just starting with you, are there any kind of unique skills, key skills that you think that people coming into the industry, if they wanted to kind of follow your career path, maybe do the job that you're doing now, that they should really kind of try and develop?
Yeah, I mean, communication skills for me are always really up there. Being able to put yourself in a customer's shoes and having that empathy as well, and empathizing with your colleagues who might be there sort of in front of a customer, and you might be back in the head office, wherever it is. And also having that solution focused attitude at all times. And remembering, as Michael said there, about the customer's dreams, and you're part of that when you're in the travel industry, making that happen. And so you have to go that extra mile for that customer.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's having resilience.
Yeah, of resilience, yeah, especially at the moment. And Michael, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. It's really kind of capturing what does the customer need. I think the part that I would add on to that is that also my team is always very mindful of other people within the industry as well. So when you are working with, whether it's a distribution partner, whether it's working with a hotelier, a tour operator, or even if you are working with a legal part of the industry, it's really important to just, I find that tourism and travel is very collaborative, and just really treat those people the same way, because, you know, my path does cross with legal. You know, if I am coming up with a campaign that is Black Friday, save up to 50%, legal want to make sure, Michael, is that genuinely a deal or not? So, you know, your path will cross with many different people, and it's, you know, working on an end product together.
And Farina, any key skills that people would need to do your role?
So yeah, obviously you would need the a lot, you know, the legal skills, and it doesn't have to just be a law degree. There are sort of alternative routes that you can go down for qualification as well. And I know plenty of people that have didn't do law at uni, but, you know, either did a conversion course or have done something sort of post. You know, even later on things like the you know, paralegal, legal executive type qualifications as well. There are sort of different routes through, but generally you will need a legal qualification to be able to obviously do legal work. But then sort of when you're in the industry, I think actually, you know, Teresa and Michael have covered it really. I think communication is a huge part of it. You know, sort of good networking skills. When you're a lawyer, you know, you very much need attention to detail. You'll be able to concentrate for quite a long period of time. You've got to be very commercial, very pragmatic, like Teresa saying, actually solutions driven. So when you're giving legal advice, nobody wants to just hear the problems. Nobody just wants to hear actually these are all the issues that you're up against. They want solutions as to you know, how we're going to overcome that. What are the alternatives? How can we overcome this issue? So you've got to be very commercial, very pragmatic in your advice as well.
Great. Well, big thank you to our panelists there. So many great tips. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks,
Danny.
Thank you.